The Sony PlayStation 5 is still nigh on impossible to find in stock as we rapidly approach the 1-year anniversary of its release, with the few consoles that do become available selling within minutes, only to reappear on eBay for about triple the actual value. I'm lucky enough to own one purely because I stayed up all night on launch day and managed to get one from Walmart Canada about 30 seconds before they were unavailable. Had I missed that, I'm not sure I'd have one right now. Really, the only way to get one is to be extremely on the ball and prepared for when retailers do get some in stock, or join a queue on basically every website and hope beyond hope they eventually send you an email. This has to be one of, if not the worst launches in video game history when it comes to console rollout, and it applies to Xbox and even graphics cards at the moment due to chip shortages. It's a mess everywhere, and I think we're starting to see the consequences of the limited availability, with next generation games such as God of War and Gran Turismo 7 now officially coming to PS4 as well as PS5, despite Sony promising the opposite beforehand. This annoys me and it holds gaming back, because if you're making games to be playable on a 2013 console on the PS4, even if it does run better on the PS5, it's still very limiting. That being said, as a whole, it is beneficial for those stuck with a PS4, particularly those who own the PS4 Pro. Hey, how's it going? I'm Josh from 91 Tech, and while we've seen some newer titles really struggle on the PS4, Cyberpunk 2077 being the best example, the PS4 Pro right now is able to play most games without a hitch. Sure, maybe not at the beautiful 4K 60 the PS5 often manages, but still with smooth, consistent frame rates and without resolution so low you feel like you forgot to put on your glasses. This console might be the perfect in-between machine for those who can't get a PS5 but need a new system right now. So let's take a look at how it holds up, whether it's worth it for owners of the PS4 Pro to even upgrade, and whether or not, for those who need a console, the PS4 Pro could even still be worth buying. Before we really talk about the hardware, I'm going to take some time to focus on the state of finding a PS4 Pro in 2021 and the pros and cons of doing so. There will be timestamps in the description below if you want to skip ahead. And right off the bat here, I want to talk to two groups of people. First off, if you own the regular PS4 or the PS4 Slim, you shouldn't buy the PS4 Pro. I don't think you need it. Yes, you would get better frame rates and better resolutions in some cases, but if you're going to upgrade, you might as well do it right. Get the PS5 and then you don't have to upgrade for years and years. So if you have a PS4 right now, either stick with it for a while longer or start looking for a PS5 and good luck. And for all those who are watching this video that already own a PS4 Pro, I have great news for you. You're good to go for at least another couple years. It seems that Sony games are still coming to the PS4 for the foreseeable future, and that PS4 Pro should be able to run them with little to no issue. So even if you are able to find a PS5, it's not necessary to get one yet, although if you do see one at retail price, I would snatch that up very quickly and then sell your old PS4 Pro on the used market. If my rather pessimistic intro wasn't clue enough, I've been pretty unhappy with Sony as of late. And not really just Sony, but the tech industry as a whole for seemingly arbitrary restrictions on gaming hardware, with graphics cards costing an arm and a leg and consoles being impossible to find. Of course, this all boils down to the massive global semiconductor shortage, but that doesn't excuse these companies for making it so easy for scalpers to abuse bots to buy up and then sell the limited inventory as soon as it goes live. And a quick scroll through eBay shows just how prevalent this is at the moment. It's ridiculous. The Xbox side is about just as bad, and it leaves consumers in a really tough spot if you're tired of the last generation hardware. The PS4 is old at this point, with the original and the Slim having the equivalent tech specs of a decent gaming PC from 2013. The fact that games as good looking as Spider-Man Miles Morales can run at all on 2013 gaming PC specs is absolutely amazing, but it should help show why I'm not a fan of Sony continuing support for their older hardware, as it means compromises have to be made within the gameplay experience. Sure, yes, it will run better and look nicer on the PS5, but of the few exclusives for the new console like Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, it's immediately apparent just how massive the leap forward is into this next generation. The game perfectly takes advantage of the SSD tech, for example, by having portals or rifts through different dimensions that immediately transport you into a completely different different environment without hesitation, fully loading it in and unloading the one you were in previously. There's no wait times, no hiccups, everything is immediate, and the game wouldn't be able to be based around this core mechanic if it had been designed to play on PS4 as well. While you won't get the fantastic SSD, there is a compromise, however, between the 2013 PS4 and 2020 PS5 that might be worth investing in: the 2016 PlayStation 4 Pro. It's the only 4K capable PS4 ever made and features an upgraded GPU and higher CPU clock rate to enhance performance in most games, particularly with newer titles. When Cyberpunk 2077 came out, the game performed so poorly on PS4 that Sony pulled it from the PlayStation network completely, with it only finally coming back somewhat recently, and even now there's a warning that it doesn't run well without a PS4 Pro or PS5. But even at launch, it was said that it ran half decently on PS4 Pro, showing the large gap in capability between the base hardware and the newer revision. And the Cyberpunk debacle is one that's going to repeat as time goes on, and all these new titles insist on coming to the old hardware. But with a PS4 Pro, you should be good to go, and I would expect a smooth experience from any game releasing, even if it's probably not going to be in 4K or always hitting 60 FPS. So a couple months ago, I bought a PS4 Pro off Craigslist specifically for this video for about $300 Canadian, which is around $230 US or so. This PS4 Pro is actually a special edition Battlefront 2 console, although the previous owner had lost the controller. I also kind of bought it with my brother in mind, who, like me, has been super hyped for Gran Turismo 7, and although the launch was unfortunately but unsurprisingly pushed to 2022, I figure that once it does come out, if he doesn't have a PS5 yet, which I don't think he will, he can use the PS4 Pro to play the game, and there's no question it'll look fantastic. I bought the system used for a price not much lower than the retail price, and unfortunately that's in part due to how hard it is to get a hold of newer consoles, and consoles in general. On eBay you'll find PS4 Pros going for often way too much money, we're talking like $600, thanks to people trying to take advantage of how hard it is to get not only a console but a 4K capable console at the moment. And you can't necessarily blame people for trying to take advantage of this, but it does suck. Brand new, the PS4 Pro is supposed to retail for $399 US, a price that might sound reasonable if you find one of these in store today, until you realize that the PS5 digital only edition is the exact same price and is literally just a PS5 without the disc tray. The lack of price reduction for the PS4 Pro can mostly be based on the fact that stock has dried up in most stores at least, and so Sony probably doesn't see any reason to make sure the price gets lowered, especially considering that it's gonna sell regardless. The Pro does pop up here and there at Best Buy or Amazon or GameStop and so on and so forth, but I think for the majority of people out there, the used market is where you're gonna have to turn to get your hands on one. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. While I showed some eBay listings that were overpriced, there were also some reasonable ones as well, and I found locally on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, people were selling the console for actually fair deals, which was nice to see, even a few around that $300 Canadian that I paid. Plus, don't forget that most PS4 games are pretty darn cheap at this point. God of War, Spider-Man, Horizon Zero Dawn, the best of the generation, these are all games that can be found for under $20 and are worthy of dozens of hours of fun in each title. If you haven't played the best of the last generation, you're missing out, and a PS4 Pro gives you nearly the best experience for many of Sony's exclusives, with the PS5 sometimes, but not always, offering a resolution and or FPS boost over it. You also can make sure you're playing your PS4 Pro in something called Boost Mode, where it's able to give better performance and more consistent frame rates, even in games not enhanced for PS4 Pro. Plus, the PS4 Pro is 4K capable, which means you can stream high-quality video to your 4K TV if you have one, which will definitely look a lot better and more crisp than the 1080p only PS4 Slim or base PS4. I don't see why they made it so the PS4 Slim can't stream video in 4K as the Xbox One S actually can, even if it can't run games higher than 1080p, but it is what it is, and it's yet another benefit to having the PS4 Pro over the Slim or the base model. The problem I have with recommending a PlayStation 4 Pro in 2021 and likely 2022 or even 2023 has nothing really to do with the hardware itself. As established here, it's a solid machine, being better enough over the PS4 to play most games smoothly while benefiting from all these games still coming out for the older system. The issue is the pricing, especially when compared to a PS5. If you stay diligent and use the many resources available to help point you to upcoming PS5 stock, within a month or two, you might be able to score a console that doesn't cost much more money than if you had bought the PS4 Pro used. And so that's what I really have to recommend doing. As much as I do think the PS4 Pro holds up, unless you're getting it for a genuinely great price point, the value just isn't there, and for only a couple $100 more, you could get the console that'll last the majority of the decade. But with that being said, if you're getting a PS4 Pro for half the price of a PS5, say, I don't know, 200 American dollars, then suddenly things become much more tempting. The PS4 Pro isn't too old, and so even most used ones should be in decent condition. Do your due diligence in making sure it works, have the Craigslist guy plug it in and show you it turns on. If you're buying from eBay, make sure the seller is reputable and has a lot of positive reviews. But assuming all is well, $200 for a 4K capable console when most PS4 games can be found for crazy cheap at this point? Well, that's not bad at all, especially if it comes with a controller or even a couple games. And prices vary location to location. Some countries tech is just more expensive, it's just how it is. I wouldn't pay much more than up to $300 American, just because only $100 more, you're getting to the PS5 digital edition at $400, so you can do your own conversions on that and see what you're comfortable with spending. But yeah, once you get above that $300 mark, I would really rather just hold out and try to find a better system. Alternatively, if you need a console, you could pick up a PS4 Pro now to hold you over until you find a PS5, at which point you could transfer all your saves to that. I think if you have PlayStation Plus, they're all online, which is awesome, and then sell the PS4 Pro for probably not much less than you bought it for. The PS4 Slim is a weird one because it's cheaper by a decent margin than the PS4 Pro, but it's at the point now where if you're wanting to play all the new games releasing, for most of them you technically can, but the experience is going to be lacking, especially if you're putting in that full $60 these games tend to cost. Imagine paying $60 for Cyberpunk 2077 and getting like 15 frames per second, right? Now, if you purely want a system to play games made within the last 10 years, specifically like 2013 to 2019 or so, and the PS4 Slim is a great buy. Almost all older games run at a fairly typical 30 FPS, 1080p, sometimes 60 FPS depending on the title, and as mentioned, many of the classics go for $20 pretty regularly. If you're watching this video though, I do have to assume you're desiring higher quality gameplay, at least to a certain extent, whether it be 4K or 60 FPS or even both. And if it is both or 4K for most games, then the PS4 Pro might not be the console for you. While it is 4K capable, not too many games actually run at that resolution. You'll see 1440p in a lot of games, so if you're interested, if you have a specific game in mind, you can always do a quick search on Google to see if that game runs at a higher resolution and frame rate on the PS4 Pro. If I had to sum up everything I've said here, the PlayStation 4 Pro is worth buying for the right price, but the PS5 is always going to be the better option if you have the patience to try and find one. That being said, the PS4 Pro should still be a very solid system for the next couple years, if not longer, as game devs hesitate to make exclusives for the newer consoles, knowing that doing so means ostracizing a significant portion of their potential consumer base. All in all, I do really like the PS4 Pro right now. It's nice to see it's held up so well. Definitely a big step ahead of the base PS4 and PS4 Slim, and it'll be playing tons of great games for years to come. About that, I think I'm right about done here. The PS5 is always going to be my true recommendation, but the reality is it's hard to find. If you would like to see my PS5 review, I'll link it in the description, as well as my regular PS4/PS4 Slim review. And if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, maybe hit that like button and consider subscribing for more content somewhat similar to this. You can follow me over on Twitter and Instagram at 91_tech if you'd like to for some reason. And with that all being said, thank you so much for watching. I'm Josh from 91tech, and I will see you all next time.